You're listening to the Bleav in Giants podcast with two-time Super Bowl winner Carl Banks and the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa.
And we welcome you to another edition of Bleav in Giants presented by FanDuel. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. All right, we're wrapping up here in Portugal. Zach Johnson has won the inaugural Portugal Invitational. Tomorrow morning, I'm jumping on a plane from Faro, Portugal, and I'll end my day at the Greenbrier. Carl is in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. And Carl, a very positive first week for the Giants. Sort of your impressions watching them go to work and knowing that tomorrow pads go on.
Well, I think it's been really good. You know, I think this team has really embraced the structure, or this level of structure that Coach John Harbaugh has. Like, there's not a lot of downtime, not a lot of standing around in practice. They're about the business. The one thing that, you know, I see a lot of people talking about the comments from Darius Slayton and, you know, saying that he didn't want to out any players or coaches. But there was a level of frustration at the leadership level of the Giants players where, you know, last year they just felt like there wasn't enough accountability. And I think that is why you lose games that you should be winning. You're leading in the fourth quarter, you're losing by 1 point, or you got guys that are not paying attention to detail. All those things happened last season. And the thing that I think is refreshing is to see guys embrace, hey, there's only one way to win, and that's for everybody to be accountable. Now, those standards never get compromised on winning teams, Bob. And I think that's what Darius Slayton was kind of alluding to, is like, you know, we have one standard. There's one standard for winning. There could be different ways you deal with players as long as they are subscribing to that standard. And I don't think everybody felt that way last year. And you know, you hear, you know, and again, I'm Brian Daboll's my friend, and I do believe he's a hell of a coach. But you just heard that he was, you know, too friendly with some, not friendly enough with others, and the standards were a little different. And you know, that was his coaching method, and they didn't win enough football games, and that's why he's not here. Okay. And then you contrast that with a guy who has a strong resume of success, and at every level, every phase of his football teams have all been buttoned up. And so they seem to be really embracing this aspect of, wow, this is how football is really played. Oh, this is how winning football is done. So you hear the one thing that you heard consistently last year is that guys were tired of losing. The guys really wanted to know what it took to win. Well, you know, they're embracing this. So the hope is that it results in some wins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember Parcells when he would have his Friday press gatherings in the old media workroom at Giant Stadium, and he would say to the beat writers would be there, a couple other writers, but it was always a light day media wise. And he'd say, all right, pens and pencils down, notebooks down. And then he'd kind of give you like a little bit of the inside skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously you guys had great teams, but, you know, his message always was, you know, players want to be coached. Mm-hmm. They want to be disciplined. There's different ways of going about doing it, but it creates a structure that they feel like, all right, everybody's on board, and this is the way it's going to get done come hell or high water. And yeah, I mean, you think about last year and the blown game in Dallas, the blown game against Denver with the 18-point lead, the breakdowns, whether it was coaching, whether it was player execution, probably a combination of everything. Then Mike Kafka takes over as the interim head coach, and he's got to sit a player because of disciplinary reasons, not once but twice. Like, none of that stuff is happening under Harbaugh. They know from
Right.
the day he met them in the spring to his first meeting with training camp and how every single day is going to go. Like, there's an expectation, and either you meet it or you're going to wind up hitting the road.
Right. And the interesting thing about it, he's not a yeller. He doesn't raise his voice a lot. You don't hear a lot about him, but he's a very, very effective communicator. He's an enthusiastic one. But, I think also what makes a big difference too, Bob, and I'm excited to see that there's more talent on the roster. And, people are breaking down, play by play, rep by rep for some of these kids. And I just look at, you can, it's interesting. And this is, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but like when you look at the linebacker crew, right? There is talent there. And Darius Muasau, like he was a guy that you rooted for, and you still root for, to really have success. And then every guy out there, it's like 6'3", 250, 6'5", 245. He's like the smallest guy out there. And he's always had to find a way to make the team. Let's just put it that way. With the talent at linebacker, he is going to. And if you just look at this picture, when you come out, if you just say, okay, let me just watch bodies, you can tell he's going to have to do a lot more than linebacker, because he's not going to crack an opening, barring somebody getting hurt or more than one person getting hurt. So he's got to find a way, in special teams and find value, right? Like he's a backup, but there are backups better than him looking at it right now. But that shouldn't deter him, because he's a guy that's always had to do that. You look at the receiver group. I'm not counting catches. I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at enthusiasm. And it's all going to change tomorrow. It's either going to be more of the guys who are super enthusiastic, or you're going to see some guys that are a little lethargic that are going to need to pick it up. Like, I'm looking at that group, and Juju Smith-Schuster is just kind of a wide receiver out there, amongst a lot of other guys. And, he's the kind of guy that needs to show and tell, because when he was at his best, he was, pretty good player. But, you're seeing guys that get in there and every rep is valuable. For him, you could tell he's a pro's pro. I mean, he moves like a pro, but it just the energy of that group, his level, in my opinion, he needs to jump in there and just really flip the switch and really go at it. And maybe that happens when they put on pads tomorrow. Energy, Darius Alexander, aside from the interceptions and all that stuff, he just looks like he's graduated to the next level. He went from middle school to high school now. He's acting like a mature, moving like a mature defensive lineman. You can see his hands are moving different, his body, he knows how to use different tools. And so that stood out to me. The guy that really makes me smile in remembrance of Chase Blackburn, who I just adored Chase, was Jack Kelly. Like, Kelly's kind of built like Blackburn. He's got these long legs and this, but you look in, he just kind of moves a little awkwardly sometimes, but then, his football instinct or his football acumen, and he looks kind of athletic, but kind of not athletic, but he gets where he's supposed to be. He's 20 yards downfield defending a pass, and I'm watching him from pre-snap all the way through the end of the play. And he's there and he's looking and he just knows where he's supposed to be. He finds the receiver down the field and, he's not running like a gazelle, but he gets there, and he wasn't laboring to get there. And it's just, that's when I say guys like that who are going to be on the depth chart, that's what Darius Muasau is up against.
Well, and Micah McFadden's not giving his spot up like that either.
Right. And Micah looks good.
Yeah.
Micah looks good. Micah, and that's, I'm looking at him. Micah's got a few pelts on the wall. He knows how to play the game. So, he's next man up. Interesting also. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask you, like, when you were talking about like body movement, since we're on the linebackers, I mean, as you see it now, I mean, there's the off-season stuff, but now you're seeing the beginning of training camp, although the pads aren't on. But I mean, your take as you watch Arvell Reese now doing it for real for the first time, or starting to do it for real.
He's a natural. Great explosion, great body control, great body movement, good dexterity. You can see it from the drills all the way into team. Just the way he moves to the football. He knows how to find the football. He's got a little hitch in and out of his stance, but his coaches will take care of that. I like pad level at the same, get to a level that you're going to play at and not have to up and go down. But he's also going to learn that from Tremaine Edmonds, because Tremaine plays, his pad level is always one way. He doesn't get in a stance and then pop up just to get back down again. He learns to read it that way. But I saw that through mini camp and OTAs and even, a little bit, but it seems like he's getting it a little bit more under control. But he's so fast and explosive that the hitch really doesn't hinder him. But yeah, he looks the part that they drafted him to be. He's doing everything without pads on that. His run fits are great, and moves forward, runs downhill towards the football, not away and not lateral.
I saw some of the highlights. It's hard because it's a 5-hour time difference. So like, yesterday, today, today's an off day, but everything that I've read about, I mean, and the video that I've seen that the Giants have put out or whatever, I mean, it certainly looks like Odell, whatever stuff little things he was dealing with in the spring, he's kind of worked his way through that. And I mean, when he moves and he goes into a cut or a break, you still see, what made him elite, right?
Yeah.
What made him what he was. With him, it's a matter of staying healthy and being able to get through camp. And as John Harbaugh said, the practices and everything else. I thought it was a funny line when he's like, well, I think he was asked by Jordan Ronani. He goes, I don't have the list in front of me, but like, it's kind of vague, but it's pretty simple. Like, practice every day, do what you got to do, be available, make plays, and it'll all take care of itself.
Yeah. And again, like, Odell is running, second team reps, third team reps, but man, he's out there. He's enthusiastic. His body language is that of, I'm going to compete wherever I am. And here's the thing, Bob, there's not a better pair of hands on this team than Odell Beckham. It's not disputable. And so if he's healthy, he still runs great routes. Whatever role they have him in, he'll be counted on. And that's, kind of when I contrast that with Smith-Schuster, the body language is different. They just don't move. I mean, listen, you could see, like, again, Juju runs routes and he's a pro in doing it, but the juice, it just seems like it ain't there. It's not that he don't have it, but he's just moving, right? He's just doing wide receiver things. And if you read the room, everybody that gets a rep is balls out. Like they are just giving it everything they can because they understand what's in front of them and what's behind them is going to push them. And I was just looking at it and I was just like, I've seen better from him. And I think when the Pats go on, maybe it's a different story. But just like that group, and I'm not crapping on him, but it's the observation. Like the juice that I see from the rest is not the same. But I've only spent off season and yesterday watching him. So we'll see when the Pats come on and how that works out. I know he's a good football player when he's on, but he's here for a reason. So he's got to earn it.
Again, no pads on yet, but obviously you and I have talked about this a lot, about the DB position, the corner, the battle. Newsome is a former first-round pick. Adebo was a big free agent signing. Deonte Banks, it appears, Carl, Deonte Banks is being given a clean slate, which is all you want with a new staff coming in. But man, if this staff can unearth the talent that exists there, the prospects of this team change dramatically, don't they?
They certainly do, Bob. And he seems to really feel rejuvenated. It looks that way. It looks like he's playing free mentally. He's had some first team reps yesterday, a lot of Newsome on the first team, and they've played around at the safety position. They played around at the nickel, or I'm sorry, the dime or the slot corner. And so there's been a lot of different combinations that's going to be interesting to see once the Pats go on, because there was a series where Thibodeaux and Brian Burns were on the same side, and Thibodeaux was the defensive tackle in that configuration. It's probably a pass rush situation or whatever, but Denard Wilson is really exploring what his personnel can do, and I think that's he's finding out a lot about it, like the versatility of some of his players. That's going to be fun to watch. Shelby Harris, DJ Reader, they are who they are. But Darius Alexander has been a guy, and Foltu and Tupou have also factored in their rotation of their defensive linemen. So I don't know if they're going to have any stalwarts in the interior of their line. I think they're going to have rotation guys that are going to be expected to produce certain results. Again, we keep talking about, what Dexter, when Dexter would bring to the table. You're not replacing that. You just need to be good on first down and second down. Your numbers have to be what they're supposed to be. You've got to be able to stop the run. And these guys, if their rotations and what the expectations are when they get in there, they just got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I was excited last year when they signed Chauncey Golston. It felt like the previous defensive coordinator really had no idea really how to use him, because I always thought when the Giants played against the Cowboys, like he was a valuable player and he made plays and stuff. And it was like it felt like he was in no man's land without any real role. I Bleav that, if he shows out and does what he has to do, like he could be another guy that, that's part of that rotation up front, but he's a guy that has some pelts on the wall. Like, it's not like he hasn't been a good player in this league.
Right. And when you watch him practice, he knows what the expectation is. he goes out and he plays with juice, right? I'm not into breaking down the what he did. I mean, what the rep was and what the call was for them. But I'm just looking at how these guys are moving right now until they get the pads on, and then you can really break it down. But like when Golston's in there, he's playing with juice. He's off the ball fast. He's playing strong, and that tells you that he's read the memo. And he knows that he wants to be counted on. He wants a role in this defense. And so he's showing that with every rep that he takes. Thibodeaux the same way, like playing with juice, playing with strength. Thibodeaux's hand work is impressive, man. Engaging and disengaging. Again, this is not without pads, but still being able to get his hands in the right position and do certain things and move his body a certain way. And Golston is the same. Like they're playing with juice. They have a sense of purpose, and that's encouraging for a defense that had struggled last year.
All right, so story time, right? So I'm in Portugal right now, staying at the Victoria Resort in the Algarve coast, about 30 minutes west of Faro. It's spectacular. Arrow Global, which is founded by a gentleman by the name of John Harbaugh, is actually from New York. But he is part of this group that's buying all these hotels, marinas, equestrian places, golf courses. They're doing it in the southern part of Portugal because there's tremendous golf courses here, and they're doing it in Italy. And but the staff here, it's going to be it's been sold. It's going to be a Renaissance starting next year. I mean, Renaissance. It's going to be a Fairmont starting next year. They've teamed up with Fairmont, but the staff here is great, right? And they've been nothing short of spectacular. And, when you get good service, Carl, it's very important, right? Like someone's going the extra mile for you. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that extra step really means a lot. So like if you're in the world of hiring, that's where a partner like ZipRecruiter comes in because they want to go the extra mile for you. And in your own business, like that extra initiative can make all the difference in the world.
It absolutely can, and that's but I don't want to call it the customer service, but the people that take care of the people and the customers. You can't have enough of those good qualified folks to help your business grow.
Yeah, and you want people that are going to also sell themselves, right? And show initiative. And that's where ZipRecruiter comes in, right? Because they have this brand new feature that allows the most interested qualified candidates first and through, so you can meet those people faster. It's powerful matching technology. You get quality candidates, and the candidates will tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job, why they're the perfect fit for your job. And that's why ZipRecruiter is the #1 hiring site based on G2. And you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Great candidates. 4 out of 5 employers recommend ZipRecruiter. Quality candidate within the first day, which saves you time and saves you money and saves you a lot of wasted effort. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio, AUDIO. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, meet your match at ZipRecruiter. So it's, with the internet, I mean, I think of all the years that I've traveled to Olympics and being out of the United States when giant training camp is going on, like getting the news few and far between, but now everything is streamed, everything's going on. So I wake up to this little firestorm. I guess it was yesterday about an ESPN analyst that wrote some harsh things about Jaxson Dart. And then
his name is Ben. I don't know his last name.
I think Ben Solak.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm reading it now. Kudos to the Giant fans. Like they went full force at this guy. And I was kind of laughing at it because you got to look at it in broad picture. Like one Giant fan posted Jaxson Dart's rookie numbers against Drake May's rookie numbers. Obviously, Drake May had an incredible year number 2. And it was kind of the point that I brought up when we had John Harbaugh on. I think some people look at Jaxson Dart as if he's the finished product. He's Jaxson Dart going from his rookie year, in which he played in 12 games, to now going in year 2. He's got Matt Nagy as his offensive coordinator. He's got a former head coach and an offensive side of the ball guy in Brian Callahan. He's got Greg Roman. Like, he's got an infrastructure. When I read the things that were written, I laughed because I'm like, okay, maybe some of that is true. From what happened last year to a guy who was going through his rookie season as a quarterback in the league, all rookies struggle with a lot of mechanics and everything else. It's a lot of times it's like they're playing on the fly. And Jaxson sometimes last year, like, he was playing on the fly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put too much into it. I know it got Giants fans in an uproar, but you got to take it for what it's worth. It's a breaking down of film from his rookie year. But what does it really mean? They hired John Harbaugh on this staff to help Jaxson Dart get to the next level and then the next level after that.
Well, the reality, Bob, is that it's old news at this point. Like, he broke down last year, and again, I don't know this person, but I was like, come to camp and see if he's improved, right? Don't wait until the end of this year to write another review, write an update. Come see him play, or wait until you get, a few games under his belt and see what's changed. But, the level of coaching that he's getting as a second-year quarterback is graduate level based on what was coaching. Like, Brian Daboll spent most of his time developing his quarterback, but young quarterbacks coach. And then you had Mike Kafka, who had his own ideas of how he wanted the offense to work if we were to understand the reports. And so he ended up calling his offense and not the offense that Brian Daboll wanted. And so this is a different level of coaching. But like you said, even if Brian Daboll had him a second year, he would be a better quarterback from year 1 to year 2. Like, the success he had is worth being maddening to someone who's analyzing him, because there's so many right now. Let's just look at J.J. McCarthy's rookie year. The things that he's had to struggle with, and anticipation and all these different things. If you can get success or some level of real production from a rookie quarterback that leads to wins, or that leads to an exciting offense, then you have something to work with. If you're not even at that point yet, you need 1 year away from being 1 year away of having a quarterback in the guy that you drafted, then that's a problem. But you put him out there, you coached him up, he worked within what you needed him to do, and then, yes, he improvised, because that's what young players do to try to make plays. When it all breaks down, do what you do best, right? And thankfully for the Giants, they have a guy who's intuitive enough and instinctive enough to go out and say, okay, it's not there. I can't get to my third look because I'm not mentally there, but I know what I can do. If I don't see these two, I've already found an opening, and I'm going to keep the play alive.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think every Giant fan everybody's encouraged by what they saw, and now it's the natural match, right? You talked about Darius Alexander and just what you saw in non-pads, but just that comfort level, like as you go into year 2 and you've done it, right? And you've gone through it, and you're coached up in the off season. And Jaxson Dart, he's in the lab right now, right? And John Harbaugh talked about, the fact that he's either in his room or he's in the film room. And he's got a wise veteran in Jameis Winston helping him through all this other stuff. So I just laughed from across the Atlantic about people were getting upset and stuff like that. And it's like, look, it's just an opinion. It's based on last year. That has nothing to do with what's happening now under this new regime. But it certainly was interesting watching Giants fans go at the guy. Whew,
well, it was well timed by Ben. This article could have come out in February. It could have come out before the draft. He waited until the second week of camp to drop it, and monetizing rage seems to be a really cool thing for folks. They want to get the engagement. So you wait until training camp and you trash their quarterback over last year's stuff. And yeah, it's kind of the way, some of these folks operate. But, if his intentions are true, then maybe he'll come and watch Jaxson and, evaluate him during the season or during camp and talk about the progress. But I don't think that's what he does. So you probably will have to wait until he drops another another article at the end of the year to tell you what he's done.
I know now that you're there, do you kind of like the notion of a camp? Because most of the teams have gotten away from going away because they've built these state-of-the-art facilities. Everything's there now. With the construction going on at the Quest Diagnostics Training Center, with the breaking down still going on of the World Cup and all the infrastructure, the Giants wouldn't have been able to have fans at practice in the parking lot because of everything that's going on. But, I think all in all, right, being sequestered as a group definitely will help the bonding process, not only between the players, but coach and players as they kind of live and eat and work together on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial, especially when you have a new coaching staff and, you take the players out of their existing familiar environment and surroundings and, okay, let's all join this basically like a retreat, and we're going to have to count on each other, right? And then we come back home to our familiar surroundings. But the whole notion of going away to camp, there was something to that. There was something good to that in terms of team building and players bonding with each other. And, it just changed. I don't know if it's because the facilities were state of the art or it's just they didn't think a generation of kids over the last 15 years really responded to being away. And I just think the breaking of norms or what new normals are has to be modified, right? You have to say, okay, well, this is why we're doing this. We're going to go away. This is why we're doing this. And it's not just to, drag you through the mud, because out here they have all the amenities that they need. They are not drinking from a water hose. They have, everything that they need technology-wise. They're not being deprived of, other than the fact that they're not, 20 minutes from home every time they walk off a practice field. But this is, I think, an environment that a lot of teams could really benefit from. Maybe the first week and a half of camp, you do it somewhere else and you bring them back. But again, let's see how it works out when the season starts. I told this one lady, Sean O'Hara, and I were doing an autograph session yesterday. She's like, we love the Giants here in West Virginia. You think you'll come back? I was like, well, you could probably make a case if they win a lot of football games this year and get into the playoffs that maybe they'll be superstitious enough and say, let's go back to Greenbrier again.
So when you were with the Giants, you had training camp at Pace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you moved to Jersey and FDU Madison.
Yes.
So though you only had
Pace.
2.
Well, Pace was our home for many, many years. And you could dread that place because the fields were in awful condition. There was goose poop everywhere. But somehow we made it through and did what we had to do. And then FDU was a lot better. But compared to the off sites of a Greenbrier, FDU is not much.
No.
I don't know. Albany is.
Everything's changed, Carl. Everything. When teams go to camps now, they're not going back to like those kind of places. Wherever they go,
antiquated boot camp.
upgrade.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not one of these. You go away and we're just going to make you focus on football, and there are no amenities, and everybody's going to drink out of a water hose. Not that anymore. So.
All right. Anything else that you got from your brief time there in White Sulphur Springs? Are you going to tour the bunker?
I'm trying to get that arranged before
I have to.
Yeah,
you have to see.
I heard it's incredible.
It's
Gary
really,
Meyer told me about it the other day. He texted me the information, says you got to go. So, but I do have one last thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I worked the golf tournament there for a couple of years, and the bunker tour is, I mean, it's a piece of American history. It's pretty cool.
I'm definitely
what's
going
your
to
other
make
thing?
sure I do it. There's a hot foot in that kicking room in Zvada, or Zvada, how you want to say it, ZVP, ZVADA. That ball comes off hot, bro. I mean, he's got a hot foot. Yesterday he's dialed in at 50, with a lot of room to spare. So that is another area that I am super encouraged by, that it won't, as Coach Harbaugh said, last he checked, they were number one for like 8-9 years. But there's a reason why they take this thing serious. And there's a kicking competition, and his competition is not too shabby either. So, but that ball is coming off Zvada's foot, and it is like a shot out of a cannon.
Well, Carl, look at it. If you play the Dallas Cowboys, and the Giants obviously learn this like many teams, and you have a lead, right? And you lead by 3, and there's 38 seconds to go in the game. The Cowboys have a legitimate weapon in their kicker, where they don't have to get the ball much past midfield to have a chance to beat you or to tie you or get off a winning kick. So that's the way the game is going now. Like, so it's, a 62-yarder is not like, oh my God, he's trying a 62-yarder. You have to expect these guys to make them.
Yeah. And kickers are not just accessories anymore. They're a mandatory part of your roster. You better have a good one if you want to compete in these games, because like you said, there are going to be situational football where you're going to have to count on your kicker to win it, and you need to do it with confidence.
Have you ever been to Portugal? I know you're a world traveler.
Yes, I've been to Lisbon. I've been to Lisbon a few times, but I haven't been beyond.
It's a really cool country.
Yeah.
The southern coast is it's pretty special. I mean, basically catch the fish right out of the sea, and it's on your table, and it's a cool place to visit. Anyway,
nice.
I think I land tomorrow. What time's practice tomorrow?
That's a good question. I'm going to assume it's 1:30 or 3 o'clock.
1:30. All right,
1:30 or 3 o'clock. I'll text you and let you know.
Well, no, I won't be there. I won't get there in time. But by the time I land, I'll get all the video from the beat writers, from the Giants. I'll find out how it went, and then you and I will get to convene on Tuesday there at the Greenbrier.
Okay.
All right, Carl. How do we like to end this thing?
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Bleav
Bleav
in
in
Giants.
Giants.